to Good Morning Football. We are live at NFL Experience in Times Square, New York City on this Wednesday, October 17th. My name's Kay Adams. I'd like to introduce you to Kyle Brandt and Peter Schrager and Nate Burleson. We are here Monday through Friday just talking a little football.
A little bit. Top of the morning to you, Adams.
Thank you, gentlemen. Lots to talk about. Of course, we'll talk about John Mara's comments at the owner meetings here in New York City, right out there in our back door. And it is time for the lead block.
Lead block.
Let's do it. It has been a brutal start for these 1-5 Giants. And earlier this season, their star player, Odell Beckham Jr., publicly questioned his team's heart. Yesterday at the Fall League meeting here in NYC, team president and CEO John Mara directed some of his frustrations with OBJ.
I wish he would create the headlines by his play on the field as opposed to what he says and does off the field. I think he needs to do a little more playing, a little less talking.
Where's your level of concern with Eli and his performance?
Well, I think when you're 1-5, it generally means that everybody needs to play better. So he's not alone. I mean, a lot of guys just need to do their jobs.
Last year you called the season an embarrassment. At 1-5, what's the feeling here today?
Yeah, I'm still embarrassed being 1-5. I mean, I can't stand up here and make any excuses about that. You are what your record says you are, as a wise man once said, and nothing I could say to make people feel better about that. I'm suffering just as much as our fans are, probably more. But again, I have confidence that we have the right guys in the building to get it turned around.
Little more playing, little less talking. Gentlemen, your reaction to Mr. Mara's comments on Odell and really the state of the Giants?
Well, one, let me say I have the utmost respect for Mara, but I don't see a difference between Odell and what he said in answering a question when sitting down with Josina about his quarterback and basically saying, I don't know, is he making all the throws? Kind of no. And everybody feels like he threw his quarterback under the bus. Yeah. He was just being honest. He was actually saying what collectively fans were thinking. Eli, for him being a $20 million man, is not playing like a $20 million quarterback. So what's the difference between that and what Mara said and what Aaron Rodgers might say when he says, my teammates are playing piss poor? Could you imagine if Odell would have used those words? The world would have blew up. Odell just simply said, in so many words, Eli's not playing up to par. So with all that said, I'm good with what Odell said. I'm good with what Mara said. I'm good with what Aaron Rodgers says when he wants to attack his team publicly so they can play better. I just don't see how there's a difference between the two. They didn't want Odell to speak, but now Mara is saying he needs to make headlines with his play. Well, the thing about it, if your quarterback got the ball to him, he'd be making headlines in the right way.
And he actually defended Eli Manning yesterday in that same thing. He says, he's a punching bag right now, but everyone's at fault. I took issue with the comments because the reason I didn't like the Odell Beckham comment, and I was criticized on Twitter, and I was told, hey, you're being such an old stodgy man. This is how it is now. Because I said, Odell, keep it in-house. Like, if you have a problem with Eli, approach Eli. Don't sit with Lil Wayne and Josina Anderson on ESPN in an empty restaurant and air it that way. Go talk to these guys behind closed doors. Keep it in-house or something to that. And I was told that's just not how it is anymore. And then the owner, Blue Blood, Giants, John Mara, for him to be talking to reporters and doing it openly there, I didn't like that either.
Same thing.
It's
Keep
the
it
same
in-house. What is going? This is the Giants. What are we doing telling them? Did he have to even address it? Just say, hey, we're going to keep it. I know he's passionate. I know he loves his team. And I know what the Giants mean to John Mara.
No doubt.
I'm not sure he needed to open this can of worms again.
Because he did it last year at the owner meetings.
He
And
did it in
the whole
March when
trade.
he said he's on the trading deadline, no one's safe, whatever. The thing that irked me most about Odell is that he said, I addressed it with my teammates, we're good. And then 2 days later goes on Facebook and is like, I'm apologizing to nobody. Felt like he was opening up a can of worms again. It didn't go away. This one, I think we've moved beyond the Odell. Why a week later, why 10 days later is the owner even addressing it? Just say, guys, we're keeping it in-house, and maybe it's just too hard to do when you're that close to it and you're that passionate.
If Odell keeps it in-house, though, Peter, there's no cameras. You know what I mean? Like, that's a problem. And we talk about him saying, I wish you would get more on the field, not off the field. And I would say, Mr. Mara, have you met Odell Beckham Jr.? You know the man? Because you invested a ton of... He likes the lights and cameras. He likes the boogie. He's into it. There's an old fable. There's a woman outside collecting firewood, and she finds a poisonous snake that's frozen in the snow.
Okay.
She brings the snake into her house. She nurses it back to health. She warms it up, puts it next to the fire, everything. She takes care of it. The snake comes to and bites her right on the face. And she lies there dying, and she goes, why did you do this to me? And
the
snake goes, babe, you knew I was a snake.
Yeah.
I'm a snake. I'm not
I've
going to
seen that,
change.
yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like, I remember we were doing some heavy lifting. We were talking about should they extend Odell long term and talking about conduct off the field and the video in the offseason. And Peter, you kind of cracked us all up because you're like, you know, he's had a couple of good months. He's had 2 good months. 2 good months. Listen, Odell is
the
Odell.
hotel room was in March, my friend.
Right. And we are now in June. For all his faults, for all his talents, this is not the first time. This is not the last time. This is the player you invested in and make the highest paid receiver ever. So he's going to make noise off the field. This is your guy, Mr. Mara. For all his faults, for all his talents, it's your guy.
We'll see if it changes anything on the field. They, of course, score off with the Falcons on Monday night action.
Bright lights.
Hey.
The bright lights where there will be lots of cameras for you, Kyle Brandt, and for Odell for Week 7.